Every year we talk about the Game Awards like it's just another award, but it's really not. Game of the Year is the one moment where the entire industry stops what it's doing and pays attention. It's the award that tells developers, publishers, and honestly the whole world what players actually value. And for almost a decade, that message never changed. From 2014 all the way through 2022, Game of the Year was basically a rotation of the same AAA heavyweights. Sony, Nintendo, From Software, Blizzard. Massive budgets, giant studios, huge marketing pushes, and that was the pattern. Big studio, polished game, another trophy. Year after year after year. But then in 2023, the whole system cracked and something changed. Because for the first time in Game Awards history, a true underdog walked in and won the entire thing. An indie game, something no one believed could actually win one of these awards, beat out every AAA giant in the room, and that was Baldur's Gate 3. A Dungeons and Dragons RPG with a ridiculous amount of choice, heartbreak, chaos, and some very, very questionable storylines that we're just not going to talk about right now. And yeah, you can argue that BG3 isn't a traditional indie game because the studio is much bigger and the scope of the entire thing was insane. But honestly, none of that matters. The real point is this: Baldur's Gate 3 proved that the best games in the world aren't automatically coming from the giant studios anymore. It was the first time that we saw a Game of the Year winner that succeeded purely off of passion, creativity, and actually respecting the player. Not battle passes, not microtransactions, and not annual releases. BG3 wasn't just a win, it was a wake-up call for the industry. It told everyone, we're done with lazy sequels, we're done with forced online play, we're done paying $70 for a half-finished product. If you don't make great games, someone else out there will. And that's why this year's Game of the Year might be the most important one that we've ever had, because 2025 is the first time indie studios aren't just showing up, they actually have a real chance to win. And here's where things get a little interesting. In 2014 to 2022, we only had 4 true indie games even make the finalist list for the Game of the Year. And that was Inside, Celeste, Hades, and Stray. All these games were amazing games, no question. Fan favorites, critically acclaimed, but everyone knew the truth. They were not beating God of War, they were not beating The Last of Us Part 2, and they were not going to be Elden Ring. Not because these games weren't good enough, but because the industry just wasn't ready to take that kind of risk just yet. But this year, it all feels different. The first time in Game Awards history, we have 3 true indie studios going head to head for Game of the Year, with Expedition 33, Hades 2, and Hollow Knight Silksong. And if you want to throw Warhorse Studios into that mix with Kingdom Come Deliverance II, you can easily make it 4 games. This is not a fluke. This is not a cute, oh look, the indie games made it onto the list moment like it was in the past. This is a legit shift in the gaming industry. A sign that players are done rewarding big budget mediocrity and want something real again, something new, something with actual passion behind it. And that's why this year's Game of the Year might be the most important one in the award show's entire history. So whoever wins this award is going to tell the industry exactly what consumers actually want moving forward. And here's the wild part: with all of this happening right now, while indie games are finally breaking through and actually competing for Game of the Year, we've got major executives at Ubisoft going on record and saying something completely different than what's actually happening in the field. They're currently claiming that single player games are dying, that players don't want to play by themselves anymore, and that the future of gaming is multiplayer, live service, always online content. And honestly, looking at the lineup for Game of the Year and the gaming trends, we know that this statement is not true. Gamers aren't rejecting single player games. Gamers are rejecting bad single player games. Look at Expedition 33, a fully single player narrative driven RPG that delivered one of the most culturally important stories of the entire gaming generation. A game built on grief, trauma, identity, wrapped inside of a turn-based system that somehow hits with the same level of intensity as Elden Ring. There's no battle pass, there's no cash shop, there's no fake ongoing content planned from the devs. This game delivered on just pure passion, creativity, and a team that cared about telling a real story. And the players rewarded that system. Meanwhile, look what happened with some of the biggest AAA releases this year, with Assassin's Creed Shadows and Civ 7. These are huge franchises with massive studios, and they both flopped in ways nobody saw coming. Why? Because they had the same problem. They were over monetized, underdeveloped, and missing a soul down to its core. Assassin's Creed Shadows is the perfect example. A single player game with the battle pass. A single player game that felt like it was designed around microtransactions and not a true story. And on top of that, the game had no direction. There was no risk, no identity, just another entry molded by analytics instead of ambition. It ended up being one of the weakest AC games in the entire series. Comparing that to Expedition 33, again, one game played it safe, followed the same formula, and delivered nothing new. The other took massive risks with its tone, with its world, with its combat, and it ended up connecting with players on a level that AAA studios haven't touched in years. And that's the shift that we're watching right now. People aren't just buying games, they're investing in passion. They're supporting studios that care about the craft instead of chasing the next battle pass trend. And the more these indie games rise to the top, the more obvious it becomes. Players are done accepting slop, and the gaming industry is finally forced to pay attention. So how did we get here? How did we go from studios pouring their heart into single player experiences to companies stuffing every game with the battle pass like it's a legal requirement? It all goes back to 2017. When Fortnite dropped its Battle Royale mode, nobody, and I mean nobody, understood how much it was about to change the entire gaming landscape. We all thought it was just a fun free-to-play mode, but over the next 6 years, Fortnite didn't just become the biggest game in the world, it exposed exactly how money-hungry major studios really were. Because with Fortnite came the Battle Pass, a system that originally looked harmless. You pay a little now, you get cool rewards, support the devs, but slowly this evolved into one of the most predatory monetization tactics the industry has ever seen. And now, almost every major always online game has a battle pass glued to it. It doesn't matter if it fits, it doesn't matter if the game needs the battle pass. If it's a live service game, someone in the boardroom is forcing a battle pass into the game. Microtransactions have gone from optional cosmetic to the core design philosophy. And slowly but surely, players are getting tired of it. Tired of paying full price of a game just to be asked for more money. Tired of the grind, tired of games feeling like jobs instead of just pure entertainment. But then you look at the indie space. For example, games like Ball X Pit, $15, no microtransactions, and more content than some $70 AAA releases. No battle passes, no daily login requirements, no artificial grind for the sake of time, just a creative gameplay loop that respects your time and lets you play however you want to play. And the craziest part of all this is, while AAA studios are nickel and diming people, indie devs are delivering full experiences at a fraction of that cost. They're giving players freedom to choose, they're giving players originality, they're giving players true value for their money. And consumers have started to notice this trend. This brings us to the real problem. The soul of AAA gaming feels completely lost at this point. This year's Game of the Year lineup proves it. When 4 out of the 6 nominees come from indie studios, that's not a coincidence. That is a clear message. It shows that major publishers genuinely have no idea what their players want anymore. They're building games based on trends, analytics, and boardroom predictions instead of passion, risk, and identity. And there's no studio who shows the disconnect more clearly than Activision with Call of Duty. Call of Duty used to be that franchise with gritty campaigns, emotional stories, actual commentary on the horrors of war. You got an incredible single player experience and then a bonus online mode that kept you hooked for months. Fast forward to 2025 and that franchise doesn't even recognize itself anymore. We've got campaigns that are always online, forced co-op missions that nobody asked for, storylines that are so over the top and disconnected from reality, they don't even resonate with the diehard fans anymore. The identity that built Call of Duty, grounded storytelling, intense missions, raw emotion, has been replaced with a live service template that feels like it was copied and pasted from every other big publisher, desperate to keep players engaged. Now compare that to something like Kingdom Come Deliverance II, a medieval RPG in the 1400s, a story about betrayal, revenge, and personal choices. No attempts to appeal to everyone, no pressure to chase trends, and just a dev team fully committed to telling their story their way. I haven't even played the game myself yet, and even I can tell it has more identity and more soul than half of the AAA releases that we've gotten this year, because it knows exactly what it wants to be. It's not trying to check every box or satisfy every single demographic, it's just trying to deliver an honest and well-crafted experience. And that's what players are gravitating towards right now. Games that actually stand for something, games that choose the direction that executed with passion. Because if a small studio in Europe can put out something meaningful and grounded, while a billion-dollar franchise like Call of Duty feels lost and confused, then you already know what that says about the state of AAA gaming. And that's why this year's Game of the Year is the most important one that we've ever had. For the first time, players actually get to send a message to the big studios. We're done with recycled ideas and half-finished releases. We want originality, passion in games that actually respect our time as the consumer. People keep saying that this is the worst generation for gaming, but honestly, I think it's the opposite. Indie studios are giving us some of the best experiences we've had in years, and this game of the year could be the moment the industry finally wakes up. If you want to see how this shift is affecting PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, check out my video on the end of the console wars. It's on the screen right now. Thanks for watching. Peace.